my name is Chelsea Chesterman. We're here at Brick World this year, 2025, with our updated Bowser's Lava Castle. So I built this with my husband, Julian Chesterman. It's kind of an expansion on the model we had in Chantilly a couple years ago. But after a year off, we decided to bring it back, and we wanted to make it bigger and better than ever. So starting at the front of the build, you have a lot of the elements like the crushing rocks and the spinning fireballs and the gatehouse that we had before. But we've added another tier with our marching dry bones Koopas, our surf and toad, and some other scenes. And that allowed us to raise the keep up, so it makes us a lot more visible than it used to be. The other big change we have is we've actually expanded this now, so it's a 360 model. We can go all the way around.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, it was already amazing the first time we saw this build, but the fact that it's 360 now and you're able to just appreciate it from every angle is super cool.
Yeah, no, it's actually opened up some things, because one thing not a single person found in Chantilly is there was a one-up mushroom hidden in this thing in plain view on the sides, and in every photo and video we see, not a single person found it. Now, if there's someone out there who did, and I haven't seen your video, my apologies. But we decided it was too hidden. So now I'm pretty sure he hasn't found it yet. It's still on the other side.
But yeah, let's start at kind of maybe the bottom level here and go through some of these functions and work our way up.
Sure. So in the main section we have the gatehouse again, but we've expanded the tunnel now, so the kids can actually see from the front all the way to the back if they've got a friend on the other side. With Mario Kart just coming out, I thought, you know what, we're going to put some Mario Kart racers in there, because it's kind of tiled as that classic Mario Kart scene when you drive through the castle. On the left side of it, you have the crushing rocks. That hasn't really changed from our last model. We updated the mechanism on the inside, so maybe we'll post some pictures online of the new mechanism. And the spinning fireballs, again, is the same as the last model we had. The fun part with that is always getting those lights on and not having the wires break while they spin.
But I feel like with builds that have a lot of movement, there's a lot to be learned, like you said, even just updating mechanisms and things, because I'm sure it runs a lot smoother.
Yeah, and we'll take learnings from this weekend for the rest of the year, since we put it together as the 360 version for the first time on Friday.
Okay.
Of Brick World a couple days ago. So we've already learned a bunch, just trying to get it set up here.
And then you've got some toads here on kind of this next level?
Yeah, so on the top of the walls is kind of our static scenes. It goes all the way around the castle now, 360. Kind of some of the classic tropes. We got the crushed dry bones, the toad just stomped. As you go around the side where he's panning with the camera, you're going to get into the frozen zone with Luigi trying to freeze everybody. So he's got some of the little bone Goombas and some Koopas to freeze. Oh no. And he's around to the back. Above the gatehouse, we have our marching dry bones Koopas, which is a really common kind of clique that they have in a lot of the video games with the castle levels. They'll have these dry bones going back and forth until they run off the edge. And then we tried to pick up on some other common things that we didn't have time to do or the space to do. So we have the moving platforms going side to side above the lava, which I thought was really fun. I really wanted to get, like, in the game you often are going across the lava to not fall into it in these castle levels. But for things like the surfing toad there on the platform and the up and down fireballs, we couldn't actually put them on the first floor scenes because we need the mechanism to be underneath and raised. So putting that extra tier in allowed us to do a lot of those mechanisms that physically were just really difficult the first time.
And that takes us to kind of the conveyor belt level up there.
Yep, so the keep constantly being tweaked so those gems don't jam, but otherwise that's the same from Chantilly. One of my regrets for Chantilly, we ran out of time to really try to build the scene on the second level. So if you look back at your old video for 2 years ago, there's not much up there. It was the last thing that got finished, so we had more time this time around to put some more characters in there. Kids can come by, point at all the different bosses from the different castles. They're cheering Bowser on with his last battle with Mario.
Yeah. What are some of the characters that you've got up there?
Mario's obviously the superstar that everyone's looking for. So one of the benefits of this model is we've been able to move him up and make him a lot more obvious, so no one's searching for him anymore. He's spitting his fireballs that are sequenced to go into Bowser, and then Bowser is fighting back from the center of his tower to rescue Princess Peach in her cage. Lego makes all the characters on this big scale except for Mario, Luigi, and Peach. So we brick built the ones that were missing. And then, yeah, underneath, kind of cheering Bowser on, you've got Iggy, Morden, Magic Koopa, Roy, Larry. Basically, they've done almost all of the bosses now, so if you go online on Bricklink or steal them from your kids' models, you can get one of almost everybody now.
Very cool. So as we walk around to the other side then, as we come inside here, what are some of the kind of differences on this side, or what are some of the other things you have represented over here?
Julian's pointed out that we skipped the scene at the bottom. So this is one of the new mechanisms, is the blocks coming in and out of the wall. Again, this is something that space-wise inside the model we couldn't do when it was smaller. So it's one of the things that was really fun to add. We've got another set of surfing platforms over here. So this mechanism is very similar to the single, but it's been made to mirror off the single motor so that you'll have the two come together and come apart. So that's kind of this side panel. Coming around to the back. So funny story with the back. We found out a week ago, literally a week ago, that we would be on this island and not against a wall. So we built this back last weekend. So this is where we have our implied motion scenes, because we did not have time to both build this and mechanize it in 4 days before we drove here. So we have Toad, he's getting a flashing star from the question mark box there. I'd like to make it flash faster, but next time. And he's going to be fighting off of some Fireball Koopas. And then on the other side, we have just some fire jets that again are coming off and on with lights. So where we couldn't put motors, I pulled out my flashing lights and my other implied motion so that we could get those modules fixed up a bit quicker. And you can see here on the back gate, it's somewhat a mirror of the front gate in that tunnel that would go all the way to the front. If someone turns it on, there goes the lights. So it only turns off and on from the front so that we don't have dueling mechanisms of kids coming in from either side.
Yeah, that's super cool though to look down in there and see all the details even inside the build.
Yeah, no, this back section was built quickly, but I'm actually really happy how it turned out. It has had the unfortunate side effect that it's buried all our motors, so we will be doing some non-cosmetic upgrades to make it a little bit easier to set up and take down. Things like these back doors where the characters could go in the door and out the door. Those are actually our access panels to get into the keep. We need to do more like that because these walls are copies of the front and they're too solid. We can't get our hands in without pulling all the modules out.
What is the internal structure like under there that kind of holds up the middle section?
So this continuous tunnel from the front gate to the back gate is the main support. On its roof is where we have the supports for the drop-in panels and the keep. There's two other basic brick towers underneath either side of the keep, and then these towers are supported by the module underneath it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, you can think of it as kind of a cross underneath of front to back and side to side, supporting the weight of the upper level.
Do you know how many total pieces you have into the build now?
My daughter is trying to estimate that. We probably we think it's going to be between 50,000 and 100,000, but yeah, she's going around doing some math, just kind of counting the rough dimensions to see how accurate that guess is.
So one of the things that makes it stand out not only is all the movement that we've talked about, but the lights throughout is really cool too. So how do you kind of balance that in terms of making sure you incorporate both lighting and movement, and do those two ever kind of come head to head in terms of we can fit something in, but we can't fit both of them in here?
Yeah, so when you're trying to do lights and motions at the same time, the key thing is that bird's nest of wires you can end up with needs to be very carefully controlled. We have found with kind of the third-party modern LEDs, you can stick lights in very tight spaces. So one of the earliest things we did was we put lights in the lava track. So the lights are actually in between that moving track and there's Technic supports. So it's running within millimeters. Yeah. which he's getting a nice close-up of. For the other places, it's just about making sure, I know you're not supposed to tape or glue your model, but I make an exception for wires that are running beside motors. I will go in there with, the kind of gaffer electrical tape they have on the floor, and I will tape those wires to the wall so that the mechanism can go up and down beside it and not have either the wire jam the mechanism or the mechanism tear the wire. We have had both happen.
No, I can definitely see that being a danger. Now, a big part of this build is also just kind of the walls and the architecture itself of the castle. So talk about your approach to that and how you kind of wanted to create the backdrop for all of this lights and movement that are going on.
Yeah, so in the end, what we decided to do was go through it for a fairly neutral background. So a lot of the Bowser Castle type levels, they're stone castles. They're pretty gray. So we incorporated some masonry bricks in both the light gray and the dark gray to try to give it some texture, not have just a blank gray wall, but it really does provide a backdrop for those red gems to stand out and all the characters.
Yeah. No, I think it works really good. So, we talked about how, finicky lights and movement can be. What's your process like of bringing this to a convention like Brick World and getting this set up at the show?
This first time was a bit rough, many learnings. But what we've been doing is we've actually been we rebuilt all of these modules from scratch. So even the ones you saw 2 years ago in Chantilly, they were completely rebuilt for here. And that was because we were adjusting the dimensions. So like the keep had to get a couple bricks smaller so it would fit better in its box. These ones has been specifically height measured to fit well in the box. If you look really careful in the lava level now, you can kind of see where there's a suspiciously straight run of bricks in that transparent red. Those are our divide points. So the modules come out, there's 8 of them around the ring at the bottom, 9, 10 for the towers, 11 for the keep, and then 12 is the tunnel, 13 and 14 are the supports. So they all get broken out and put in their own boxes so that we can transport them as carefully as possible so they get here intact.
What is there any Mario character kind of related space that you hope to add in the future? Maybe something that someone from the public has suggested to you that you think would be a cool idea?
So some of the things with the in and out walls and such, actually there's one more mechanism on the other side at the bottom, which is the great swinging. Those are some of the things that people have talked about of like, hey, do you have one with like the wire fences and stuff? So we tried to use some of those ideas when we were setting up this model. From the Bowser Castle end, we're pretty saturated. For later displays, I'm hoping to, add a few more dry bones. I ran out of toads. You can only steal so many toads from my kids. So there's a few scenes that are a bit underpopulated. So for later in the year, we'll see if we can track down a few more of those figures doing funny, crazy things.
Yeah. Well, keep up the great work, and I can't wait to see how this continues to evolve. It's such a neat display and so interactive. So I think it's definitely a crowd favorite here. So thank you for taking us through the updated version.
Great. Thank you for coming by.